I've been reading this fascinating book, and inside of the book talked about some different brain science. And so the odd person that I am, if I come upon something that fascinates me, I tend to pause what I'm in and I will chase down that rabbit hole if it interests me. And this has been interesting me for quite some time. So I'll lean into it with this. Think about how a radio works. And I have some notes here to reference because I have some scripture and some quotes to reference. But think about how a radio works. A radio, right now, there are thousands of stations that are moving through the room that you're sitting in right now. There's music, there's voices, there's emergency signals, there's data. All of it is here, and all of it is here all at once. But your radio doesn't play everything. It just tunes in. So the radio has the capacity to receive every station, but without a tuning dial, it would play all of them all at the same time, which would just sound like a bunch of chaos. So it filters the frequencies and selects just one. Your brain actually works the same way. Consciousness is not created by your brain in the same way that we often imagine. It's received, filtered, and tuned. Your brain is less like a hard drive and more like a receiver. So there's a neurotransmitter called GABA, which stands for gamma aminobutyric acid. I'm not confident I said that correctly, but its job is to inhibit, to quiet, and to filter. GABA is the reason your thoughts do not happen all at once. It is why you can focus on one voice in a crowded room. It's why the hum of the air conditioner disappears, and it's why you stop feeling the glasses on your face. Your brain is constantly choosing what not to let in. In fact, your senses themselves are already filtered. Humans can only see a tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum, for example. We hear only a narrow band of sound frequencies. Light, sound, and information far beyond our perception are passing through us every second completely unnoticed. Not because they're not real, but because we are not tuned into them. Selective attention and habituation are part of the same design. Your brain blocks repeated inputs so you're not overwhelmed. That's why you might have searched the house for glasses that are on your face or for the phone that was already in your hands. The signal didn't left, but your awareness of it did. And that filtering actually starts at birth. Newborns are not aware of the world because their eyes don't work. In fact, their GABA levels are extremely high. Their brains are filtering almost everything out except for what is directly in front of them. It's like training wheels for consciousness, protecting a developing mind from too much stimulation too soon. Now, as we mature, GABA levels slowly decrease and our awareness expands. Now, here's where it gets really, really fascinating. When GABA drops suddenly during extreme stress, epileptic seizures, or even near death, those filters begin to weaken. Neurologists have actually observed that after certain seizures, patients report a profound sense of peace, clarity, and even bliss. Not confusion or fear, but more of a calmness. Near-death studies and documented reports describe the same thing: overwhelming euphoria, total life recall, heightened awareness, a sense of stepping beyond the physical world. The brain in those situations is not adding something new, it's removing the tuning limits. Nikola Tesla understood this intuitively, and he said, quote, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists." Now, as a Christian, that language sounds familiar. Scripture tells us that we are not seeing the full picture. 1 Corinthians 13 says, "For now we see through a glass dimly, but then face to face." Ecclesiastes says that God has set eternity in the human heart. We see in Romans that creation reveals invisible realities. So your limited perception is not a failure of design. It is the design. God did not make your mind small, but he did make it merciful because we are not meant to carry the full weight of reality yet. So then the question that I've been thinking about a lot the past couple days is, if the brain is a receiver, the question naturally follows, what is it receiving from? So science can describe the filters, it can measure the chemicals, it can observe what happens when those filters weaken, but it cannot explain why consciousness does not collapse when the body does. In many cases, in all cases, it expands. That points to something beyond the physical container that we're in. If awareness increases as the brain lets go, then death may not be the end of consciousness, but the removal of its final limiter, which aligns with what scripture has always said, that life does not end, it transitions, that the body is a tent, not a home, that we were made for more than this bandwidth of existence. If God is the source of life, truth, and consciousness, then our mind has never been generating meaning on its own. It's been receiving it from Him. That means your thoughts, your longing for eternity, your sense that this world is not the whole story, those are not glitches, they are signals. Signals that you were designed to tune into something eternal. And if that is true, then death is not stepping into darkness, it is stepping into clarity. Not losing yourself, but finally receiving the full signal. And that's not wishful thinking. I find a lot of hope in that. Hope you guys got something out of this. I've been doing some study on this GABA and all the different experiments that it comes with. And as somebody who came to the Lord through seeking wisdom, scientific guidance, answers to all things in life, I felt like I had to have before I kind of decided on a route of spiritualism. I ultimately found hope in scripture and in Jesus because I didn't have to understand everything. But the more that I begin to understand, the more I appreciate God's design, not just for our bodies, but for the coming eternity as well. And finding out more about how our brains work, that they're not storage units, they are receivers of information, that we receive information from an unlimited consciousness, which we call God. We just have to tune the dials in correctly. That to me just continues to make me fall in love with the Lord over and over again, knowing that science continues to prove how incredible He is, how majestic He is, and how hopeful we really can all be if our faith is placed in Jesus, that death isn't something that we need to be scared of, but it is something that the Lord has designed for us to experience the fullness of reality as He has meant it, if and when that time comes. But in our physical limitations today, it's just not it's not something that He's made available to us. It's almost like He's made our brains capable, but He puts these filters in to keep us from being overwhelmed. So it's a very interesting, and we can get into a whole theological discussion around new bodies and revelation end times and all that type of stuff with all this information. So that's a different thing. But at the end of the day, this to me just felt like a lot of hope and a lot of clarity and a lot of just, I love you, Lord, over and over again. So let me know if you want some articles about this that I've been reading. Happy to share that with you. But hopefully you found this insightful and inspirational in some capacity. God bless you guys.